There, we're back. You want to start us off?
Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Claire Sullivan. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Innovation in Digital Badges and Micro-Credentials at the University of Maine System, and this is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Laura Wilson. I am with Cooperative Extension at the University of Maine.
So today I will take you through and start off with what we're doing in Maine, what the initiative is all about, and then I will hand it over to Laura, and she will talk much more in detail about the micro-credentials being developed and are developed through Cooperative Extension. So in 2019, the University of Maine System received a Lumina All Learning Counts grant, and one of the purposes of this grant was to develop an ecosystem across the state. It was a big goal that we had, but we wanted to see if we can create an infrastructure that would align and decrease the confusion of micro-credentials across the state. So we dealt with adult learners was the primary focus in 4 subpopulations. The subpopulations were the incarcerated, low-income, Native Americans, and our New Mainers, immigrant and refugee group. We had 11 different partners, including the Maine Community College System, the Department of Education, Adult Education. We had the Department of Labor, Department of Corrections, Maine State Libraries, and others. And we developed a micro-credential in computer support specialist. And this micro-credential brought in some industry-recognized credentials. We brought in the digital literacy IC3 and the CompTIA A+, as well as the option to take out Test Out PC Pro. So that was one micro-credential developed. Then we developed a micro badge in Native American history called Dawnland. And then we also took in and worked with the Eastern Maine Community College micro-credential on Opportunity Ready for their for the incarcerated group. So with that work, we absolutely learned a lot about adult learners and how to use micro-credentials and move this forward. So at the same time, the University of Maine System was developing our own initiative for micro-credentials. So our Board of Trustees asked us to create a set of recommendations and guidelines for micro-credentials for our 7 campuses. And we worked together on this, and we're implementing those recommendations right now. So some of the guidelines that we came up with was we really wanted these micro-credentials to be competency-based and be quality assured. And the quality assurance comes with the standards and assessments that we use. We also wanted them to be workforce development related. We had originally started with student engagement at the University of Maine through the Engage Black Bear initiative, but then really thought we needed to focus more on workforce development, upskilling, reskilling. We wanted new access points to enter the University of Maine System. We were wanting to represent the underserved and adult learners, making sure that they had access points, as well as youth. And so Laura will be talking a little bit more about our youth micro-credentials and what we're doing with those. The whole idea, too, is for continuous lifelong learning, and that's built into our framework. And we are building aspirations, like I said, but the big thing for us was the collaboration and the alignment piece. We really wanted to, like I said, decrease the confusion, and for a collaboration, we did not want 7 different micro-credentials that were the same. We wanted to create one set of micro-credentials for the system where you can, on your campus, use whatever programming you might have, as long as the learner met the competencies and set that standard, they would earn the micro-credential. So it didn't matter where they were receiving that information or demonstrating that knowledge. So this led us to the framework. Like I'm mentioning, we didn't want our micro-credentials, to be confusing to people. We wanted to be on the same page. We wanted to have the same definitions. So with this framework was developed, so all our micro-credentials use this framework. It's been adopted by the Maine Community College system, as well as adult education is also using the same framework. So just very briefly, there's 3 levels to the framework. The level 1 is introductory or foundational work. So that can be very brief. It could be an introductory course, get somebody excited, their feet wet on a topic, or it could be more in-depth foundational work to get somebody prepared for more rigorous training that would occur at level 2. And so level 2 is where that training occurs, and it would be in like academic courses you can fulfill the training, or it could be in a series of workshops, it could be a boot camp. So the developers of the particular micro-credential would decide what type of training is needed at that point, how they were going to assess the competencies and skills within that level before they moved on to level 3. And level 3 is where you take what you've learned at level 1 and level 2 and apply it in a real-world situation. So a job situation, an internship, or it could be an experiential learning opportunity. So we wanted them to have that background of not only demonstrating it, but have a supervisor who's looking at them and saying, yes, we believe, we can verify that you have these skills and competencies. So that was at level 3. Then all 3 of those get stacked into gets stacked into the final macro badge. And the macro badge just represents that the micro-credential was earned. We want them, so they would have all 3 that would represent. So an employer can look at this branded macro badge and know that that learner has had rigorous training and has had application of their training in a real-world situation. Because it's branded that way. And then we wanted them to not only stop there, but to think about where else could this person go? What's the next step? That continuous learning opportunity. So getting the idea for the University of Maine System is a place where you can stop in and out, you can have the next step ready for you. So that's what we're working towards, is what is the next step? So another piece of our framework were what we're calling micro badges. And these are more granular, more skills-based badges where they can be put into the framework, the pathway, at any level, usually at level 2, where the rigorous training occurs. But they're flexible, so you can take them out, you can put them in. So we've developed a few of these, but we also have worked with the Education Design Lab. We were part of their Tee Up the Skills campaign and their Badge to Hire initiative. And we are using their 21st Century Skills badges and pulling them into our programs through a mapping process, as well as some online modules that they have as well. So we're giving the opportunity for those can be standalone. You can pull those out, the micro badges, or you can pull them in. So that's another opportunity that we're working on. So it's nice to have that flexibility because you can take those out and revise them as needed. So our big question that we wanted to start with is our why, and why are we doing this? Who are the audiences we're serving? And what are the purposes for each of those audiences? Because it can change. So we have the matriculated student micro-credentials, we have youth learner micro-credentials, adult learner, and then professional development. And you really have to consider what's the purpose for each of those as you're developing your own micro-credential initiative. One of the things that we've done is very recently developed a micro-credential on how to develop a micro-credential. So we have the 3 levels. It follows the same framework. And this is really helping us because there is a lot of faculty and staff are new to this idea quite a bit. They don't understand what the purpose is. They don't understand the workforce development aspect of it. So we, once again, to decrease the confusion, we have this system of worksheets that people would do, and we've developed templates to help people through that process. So at level 1 for that training, they would just, it's really just a basic overview, similar to what we're doing right now, and they take they write a reflection and they take a quiz to get them. The purpose of that quiz is to really understand the language. What is a micro-credential? How we are using the word micro-badge. And then level 2 is where the training occurs, and we bring them through the process to the metadata template that they would be using for the 3 levels. And then the level 3 deals with implementation, issuing, and marketing your micro-credential. So we've developed a few, and we will probably double this within the fall. We will have the opportunity to have mini grants. And so those are 9 mini grants that people are developing, teams are developing micro-credentials right now. So we hope to continue with those and develop more. So, well, I will turn it over now to Laura, because she will talk about some of the specifics of developing a micro-credential and what's happening through Cooperative Extension.
Thanks, Claire. So, yes, I'm with Cooperative Extension. Cooperative Extension is the outreach arm of the University of Maine. We provide research-based information to the public, and our learners are both adult learners through some of our workshops and programs. We also administer the nation's largest youth development program, which is 4-H. I see some nods, which is great. Many people know of our programs in the agricultural sector, and for our adult learners, Maine has focused over the past decade or so in engaging our food industry. So everything from agricultural producers to small businesses or larger businesses and business practices around growing and marketing food and even creating new recipes and food safety. So from the grower to the consumer of food, which really is every resident of the state, right? And we also engage our youth 4-H learners who are anywhere from 5 to 18. They are not always in that traditional agricultural sector because we are a youth development organization. We work with kids and what sparks them and what excites them and provide a positive youth development adult role model relationship to help them gain life skills to grow into healthy, functional adults. So Extension, immediately, I saw the value of these micro-credentials for our learners. So our Extension faculty and staff are University of Maine faculty and staff, and a lot of times those faculty and staff have departments where they also teach. One example would be in food safety. We have a faculty member who has taught food safety courses that teach industry standard, FDA standard operating procedures and how to develop control plans for food safety. He also teaches these in workshops for adult learners in the industry. And he was one of our early adopters, and we were able to start creating food safety micro-credentials for those learners who did not take the food safety course because they are not a matriculated student, but they're gaining the same skills that the students are by going through and participating in those workshops. So now those learners are able to have a university-backed credential showing that they have gained those skills. Another early adoption program was in our 4-H realm, where we taught undergrad students how to be 4-H volunteers and go out and conduct science and engineering activities with kids in the community. Those 4-H STEM ambassadors were university students, but this was a volunteer experience for them. We were able to create a pathway of micro-credentials for them, and Over the past few years, I'm going to look at Claire, as the university system has refined this pathway and has partnered with Education Design Lab, we've been able to morph this credential pathway from something that was, okay, you did this training and then you did this experience with kids, into, okay, you gained skills in risk management, positive youth development, and experiential learning. And now, because you have demonstrated this in the community with youth, you have also earned the Education Design Lab's Resilience and/or Collaboration Badge if you demonstrate back to me at the end of your service through your reflection that you meet those Education Design Lab criteria. So we've been very successful in mapping those micro badges to some of these programs. So our criteria for this and the language have changed a little bit since we started, but I think using the university system's framework and language has really allowed us to help our students talk about those skills that they've developed and use those as they are going on to other courses or applying for employment after graduation. But our primary audiences with Cooperative Extension are not necessarily those matriculated students. So the 4-H Youth Development Program has an outdoor leadership focus in some of our camp and learning centers. We do have 4 4-H camp and learning centers around the state. Each one of these camp and learning centers has programs for teenagers on outdoor leadership. They teach outdoor skills, they teach leadership skills, and outdoor leadership, outdoor adventure is a growing industry in the state of Maine. It's an industry that really appeals to some of our young people in certain parts of the state. They want to see that there is a place for them. There's a place that they belong, and there's a place that will value these skills and interests that they have. So with one of our camp directors, we developed this 4-H outdoor leadership pathway. Well, we know that we're not the only people in this space in the state of Maine, and that learning happens outside of the 4-H Youth Development Program. So we were able to bring in, using this flexibility that the system's structure has allowed us, the ability for youth to progress along this pathway through early college courses, through our 4-H youth development programs themselves, which are in the center of this graphic, or we can map hunter safety courses and understand that the skills that they have gained through those courses are the same skills, and we verify those skills and enroll these people in 4-H, and they are able to continue along the 4-H pathway. So if we have an educator who wants to meet those same criteria and work with us to issue these credentials to their students, we have that opportunity with that other to be approved by 4-H staff to work with those educators to make sure that their criteria match our criteria, and then we would be the ones to award the badges to the youth in those programs. So never to do anything, the most simple way ever. One of the other growing industries in the state of Maine is aquaculture. And aquaculture education is happening all over the state. At the University of Maine, we have the Aquaculture Research Institute. We have University of Maine Machias doing aquaculture education, both with their current students and through early college courses. We have 4-H with aquaculture programs for kids, including a really fun and awesome home aquaponics program that was released virtually over the past few years. And we thought, okay, Maine Aquaculture Association in the fall of 2021 released the occupational standards for Maine for the different types of aquaculture that are happening now and they expect to happen in the future. How can we pull together those who are educating both our youth and our adult learners in aquaculture and come up with a collaborative series of credentials and have those be aligned, skills-based, based on those Maine Aquaculture Association competencies? And how can we make this a seamless program for anybody who is interested in aquaculture to come into, whether they are a current student or whether they're a community member who is taking a workshop on aquaculture for the first time. So this is a challenge. We were awarded one of the UMaine System's mini grants and are in the process of trying to find all the players in the aquaculture education world in the state. We're going to bring them together and we're going to develop those different pathways aligned with the Maine Aquaculture Association competencies and look at Claire. Hopefully have all of these credentials ready to roll out by the end of this summer. So it's a big task, but again, it's going to avoid confusion of our audiences if we do this together. If we do this right, when we do this right, we will be able to develop a series of credentials that start potentially with teenagers who are developing an interest in marine science and aquaculture. They will learn through a separate pathway with levels 1, 2, and 3. Again, skills-based, competency-based, and with an internship or real-world application. They will take that experience, they'll be able to seamlessly get the level 1 adult aquaculture credential and move forward in whatever path they decide in that aquaculture world. So some kids may decide that they want to go to community college and learn more about what community colleges offer as far as aquaculture training. Some may decide to go to a 4-year university and maybe even beyond and become a researcher in new aquaculture techniques and new aquaculture crops. What will happen, though, is those kids who start along this pathway will know what aquaculture is. They will know what the pathway can be for them. They will know the different ways that they can jump on or off that pathway, and they will have a vision of what the different educational opportunities are so that they will come into that new and emerging workplace with some of that pre-knowledge. For us, it's the right kid in the right place, getting the education that they want and need at the right time. So there's a lot of work to do. That's a big task. There are a lot of people in that space, and so it's going to take us a bit to do that right. But we feel that for our kids in the state, for our adult learners in the state, it's an important place to be. There's a lot to do, but what's helped with this process has been, those guiding principles that the UMaine system has put forth for these micro-credentials. So the structure and the focus on competency-based and quality assurance, the workforce application, the adult and underserved learner focus, lifelong learning, youth to the UMaine system pipeline, that's, and collaboration and alignment. And that space is big, but it's a space where extension feels like we belong. We have those adult learners, we have those youth learners, and if we can collaborate and bring them together with our educational institutions and reward them or acknowledge that they are learning through the University of Maine System by issuing them those skills-based badges, then we're going to keep them within our university and show them future opportunities to engage with us.
So just to end things, we want to talk a little bit about what we're planning for the future. And so some of the things we're planning are some, of course, further development, more mini grants to continue this work, more supports for the work that's already being done. Our LMS is D2L Brightspace, so we are thinking about more online options. So it's available, MicroCredential is available across multiple contexts. We're also building in an e-commerce site into pulling that over the Brightspace. We'll do much more this year and continuing in the future. Our platform is Badger Pro, and we would like to do much more with their Badger Pathways. So the learner can take a look at their learner record and see how they're progressing within a pathway. And then we are right now developing guidelines for a statewide micro-credential steering committee. So we want to keep that work that we did initially with the Lumina Grant continuing and to pull in more partners as we move forward as needed. So thank you all, and we have some time for questions. This is our contact information. So are there any questions?
We do have a question from the virtual audience. Have you considered engaging private colleges in these efforts?
When we started, it was for the public, the two main community college system and the University of Maine System, but yes, we can pull in anyone who wants to work, but the thinking is getting alignment to that framework. You know, so if the public colleges want to, if the private colleges want to use the same framework, then absolutely, it would be wonderful to work with everyone. Questions? Okay, thank you very much.